In America, the elderly have pensions, their own homes, and full medical care. It all seems like a paradise for old age, but if you really step into their world, you will see. There is loneliness that no medicine can cure. There are gaps that money cannot fill. In this video, we will step out of the beautiful misconceptions about old age in America and listen to 6 silent but gloomy things that are happening to millions of elderly people in the land of the stars and stripes. Things that not everyone has the courage to look straight at. Watch until the end to know why sometimes just a simple phone call can save a life. 1. Freedom or self. In America, people call old age the age of freedom, no longer having to work, no longer being tied down by children, no longer living with multiple generations, having time for yourself, having enough social welfare to live on, having a car to drive, a house to live in, and medicine to use. Sounds beautiful, right? But few people understand that behind the shell of independence are houses that are suffocatingly silent every evening. It is the repetitive meals alone in front of the TV screen, where the character in the movie becomes the only friend they talk to during the day. It is the phone ringing once, then turning off, because the caller is just a health insurance employee. They can go to the supermarket at any time, but no one asks, "Do you need me to take you?" They can sign the hospital admission form themselves, but they are also the ones who sign the discharge papers and take a taxi home. On holidays, while the restaurant is packed with young people, the old people put flowers in a small vase, cook a simple meal, and sigh because none of their grandchildren remember to call to congratulate them. Old people in America are often good at hiding their emotions. They will still smile when you visit, still say, "I'm fine, dear," when you ask about their health. But do you know, that fine is sometimes said just to reassure the other person, but inside they are empty. They may not say it, but they miss the feeling of hearing the footsteps of children running around the house, of cooking a meal with someone waiting for them, of nagging because someone has not come home on time. That's freedom. But the price of freedom in old age in America is that they are forced to get used to being alone. And at that moment, many people who look like you may suddenly be startled, because they suddenly see somewhere the image of their father, their mother, or their own future in a few decades. Quiet, independent, and invisibly lonely. 2. Successful children, parents left behind. In America, children are taught to be independent from a very early age. At 18, they leave home, go to another city to study at university, then go to work, then get married, then get caught up in the cycle of life. At that time, parents stay home, standing and watching. At first, there were weekly calls, then bi-weekly, then, "Mom, I'm busy," "Dad, I have to work overtime this weekend," then promises of an upcoming visit, which never come. Old people in America don't say anything, they understand. They always understand, always sympathize, always tell themselves, as long as their children are happy, that's enough. But parents' hearts don't need to understand, they just need to be loved. An old man once shared, "On holidays, I just hope for the doorbell to ring, but if it doesn't, I'll console myself that the kids are probably busy being happy." It sounds gentle, but it hurts my heart. In their old age, the only thing they want is not money, but a caring look, a sincere question. "What did you eat today, Dad? Did you sleep well, Mom?" There are successful children, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, driving luxury cars, buying big houses, but not having even 30 minutes to call home to ask about their parents. The people who went without food and clothing during their youth just to raise them. In America, parents do not live with their children, do not interfere in their private lives, do not demand anything in return. They silently withdraw, keep their self-respect, and are quietly left behind. That story sounds familiar, right? Because it does not only happen in America. It is happening, right now, around us in the house next door, or right in each person's heart. And maybe, after hearing this part, someone will pick up the phone, not to surf the internet, but to dial the number to call their mother. 3. Friends fall apart, only echoes of memories remain. There is a very special pain in old age. It is not back pain, heart pain, or joint pain, but the pain of looking around, realizing that you are the last survivor in a circle of old friends. In America, where everything operates according to hours and schedules, friends sometimes have to schedule to meet each other. But when you get old, one day you suddenly realize, there is no one to meet anymore. The person who used to camp with you in the middle of the forest has now returned to the ground. The person who used to sit at the coffee shop on the corner of the street is now just a name in an obituary. You call the old number, but the other end of the line is a stranger's voice. The phone book is getting smaller and smaller, while the memories are getting thicker. They still remember every smile, every time they sat singing together, every old story that no one tells anymore. But memories, no matter how beautiful, cannot return the people who have passed away. There are elderly people in America who choose to write diaries, to record old memories, not to tell anyone, but to keep themselves from feeling lost. Some people hug old photos, sitting and looking at them all afternoon, because that is the only way to chat with a friend who has passed away. In a modern society where everyone is busy, the elderly, especially single elderly people, seem to be living in a parallel world where time passes without anyone witnessing. They do not speak, but viewers will feel something very real. Loneliness is not when there is no one by their side. 4. No physical illness, but weary in mind. Old age in America does not always come with physical illness. Many people are still healthy, still drive, still walk every morning, still cook for themselves, and take medicine on time. But the painful thing is, they are gradually worn out from the inside. How do you know an old lady who wakes up every day with the feeling that she has no reason to wake up anymore? How do you see an old man who used to be a good engineer, now sitting in a nursing home feeling like an old, forgotten item? Old people in America, even if they have their own cars, even if they have benefits, what they lack is something invisible, the feeling that they are still valuable. An old woman in Florida once wrote in a letter, "The doctor told me that I have no illness to worry about, but they do not know that my heart no longer expects anything new in life." The words were as light as the wind, but as sharp as a needle. At the age of 75, 80, 85, people don't need to be praised, don't need to return to the top, just need to feel that they are still necessary to someone, even if it's just to tell an old story, even if it's just to keep the house key. But modern society, especially in America, operates too fast, too pragmatically, causing the elderly to gradually become observers rather than participants. They sit quietly on park benches, watching people pass by. No one notices them. No one knows today is their birthday. No one asks if they are sad, and they don't speak. They don't bother anyone. They choose to be silent. But that silence is the most urgent call that young people, if they are not careful, will never hear. When you read this, try to imagine, if one day you get old, not sick, not lacking, but only lacking one person who really needs you, how will you live? 5. Silently being insulted just because they're old. There's something that very few young people realize. Old people, especially old people in America, are often hurt not by mean words but by invisible looks, small but exclusionary actions. They are called slow, old-fashioned, outdated, sometimes not by words, but by people interrupting them mid-sentence, laughing faintly after they make a point, or simply not inviting them to join the conversation. They sit there, silently, smiling, but inside there is a hidden hurt that is hard to name. In America, where youth, efficiency, and innovation are highly valued, old people are often no longer seen as a source of knowledge, but as an obstacle to progress. In companies, they are forced to retire early. In families, they are seen as outsiders when their children and grandchildren discuss the future. In society, they appear less and less on television, in advertisements, in textbooks, as if their presence is only temporary. An old man once said, "My grandson asked, 'What did you do when you were young?' And before I could answer, he went back to his iPad. I wasn't angry, but I was sad." That sentence was light but heartbreaking. The elderly don't need to be praised. They just need to be respected as living people, not as living relics left in the corner. But you know what? What's more heartbreaking is that they themselves gradually believe that they are no longer important. They withdraw, refuse opportunities, say, "You're busy, don't worry about us," because they don't want to bother anyone. But in fact, what they need is not care, but the feeling that they still have a place in this world. When you see this, try to stop for a moment and think, how long has it been since you let your grandparents or parents tell a whole story? How long have you been ignoring them because you thought they didn't understand technology, didn't keep up with the times? And if you could go back in time, would you choose to listen to them a little longer? If you've come this far and felt something stirring in your heart, a little sad, a little heartbroken, or a little awakened, then you're not alone. There are many people out there who are also quietly thinking about their parents, grandparents, or their own future old age like you are right now. And if these things mean something to you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your loved ones. Not to make this channel grow, but to touch more hearts so that more old people no longer feel forgotten. We can't make old age less years, but we can make it warmer with understanding, presence, and a timely question. 6. Behind the smile is an empty soul. You can find them anywhere in America, in the supermarket, in the park, in the post office, or sitting quietly on the porch. They still smile, still dress neatly, still nod politely when someone walks by. But don't let that smile fool you. Older Americans are best at hiding their emptiness because they have learned not to bother anyone. When someone asks, "How are you?" they say, "I'm fine." But fine can mean, "I've been eating alone for 3 months," or "I buried my last best friend last week." Some smiles are not because of happiness, but because they are afraid that others will be embarrassed if they tell you how sad they are. Loneliness in old age is not always sobbing. Sometimes, it is silence that lasts for years, that no one has asked long enough for them to open up, that they are still alive but no one cares. And the most painful thing is that they gradually believe that this is normal. But no, old age should not be a dark place that people quietly enter alone. It deserves to be lived fully, with connection, listening, and gratitude from the next generations. If you have watched this far, perhaps something in your heart is sobbing. Maybe you are remembering your late grandmother, your old father sitting in front of the house every afternoon, or simply imagining yourself in a few decades from now. If so, please take a second to like the